Something explosive is brewing behind palace walls and Montecito gates, and this time it's not just whispers, it's a full-blown war between husband and wife. Meghan is allegedly ready to drop the most dangerous bombshell of her life, a tell-all memoir that could torch the royal family beyond repair, and the only person standing in her way is Harry. Yes, Harry himself. The same man who once wrote Spare and set fire to centuries of royal restraint is now desperately trying to stop his own wife from doing the exact same thing, only worse. Something very shocking has been reported. Meghan is planning to release a tell-all memoir, a memoir that would drag the royal family through the mud. Surprisingly, the only thing that's stopping her from publishing it is Harry.
Meghan Markle gagging, knock it off, to unleash a tell-all memoir, but Prince Harry blocking it with all his might.
And let's be very clear here, Harry's motive isn't random, and it certainly isn't noble in the fairy tale sense. It's survival. He reportedly knows exactly what this book could do. He understands that once Meghan presses publish, whatever fragile, threadbare connection he still has with the royal family will snap permanently. Not bend, not strain, snap. Gone forever. Harry has a very important motive to stop Meghan from publishing it. He doesn't want Meghan to do it because it would ruin his chances of reconciling with the royal family. Meghan wants to tell her own story as if the ones she has been telling aren't already her own story. She feels that her royal life has mostly been told through others, and this time, according to her, she wants to tell the story the way it happened. We already know that a large majority of it would be questioned.
Meghan Markle's memoir as reclaiming her story. I'm sorry, do we have like 4 hours to go over how ridiculous that is? Whose story would it be? You're the only one claiming most of the crap that you're claiming, aka making it up, in my opinion. So who else's story would it be? And you tell it every 4 minutes. So with some details change. So what are we talking about? Who else's story would it be reclaiming her story?
Now, pause right there, because this is where the tension becomes almost unbearable. Meghan believes her royal life was filtered through other voices. She claims distortion. She claims misunderstanding. She claims she hasn't truly been heard. But critics are already rolling their eyes. Because wasn't there that globally televised interview? Wasn't there that Netflix series? Wasn't there that podcast run? How many versions of the truth does one need before it starts sounding like strategy instead of storytelling? Then came Spare, Harry's memoir, his confessions, his deeply personal disclosures that sent shockwaves across Buckingham Palace.
Or family, because Meghan has said just this past couple of days about how she has she's been freed from her time in the royal family and she could say anything. So
And apparently watching her husband release his side of the story lit a spark in Meghan. Not admiration, competition. A need to carve her own narrative into history books. A need to ensure that when royal drama is remembered, her voice is not a footnote. It's the headline. It seems that after Harry's memoir Spare, she was a bit jealous and also needed her own version, something like Spare. She wants her own story to be on record too. So she set out to start working on her tell-all tale. She feels her story has been distorted and told only through other perspectives, which...
But she's been approached by publishers offering multi-million-dollar advances for a book that would tell her side of the story following her and her husband Harry's departure from royal duties.
Is very strange because if I remember correctly, it was Meghan herself who spilled everything in her interview with Oprah. She believes that this memoir would let her speak without filters and clarify misunderstandings, especially about her royal years and exit from royalty. But here's where things take a sharp, almost cynical turn. This isn't just about self-expression. It's about timing. It's about money. It's about security. Because let's not pretend the Hollywood reinvention has gone exactly as planned.
Demand for her book, but I think there'd be a flash in the pan like there was for Spare, where people would buy her book. Whether it's, I don't think it's her genuine fans, but I think people who are like, what the hell could she have to say? The same people that maybe tuned into her Netflix show.
Projects have fizzled, shows have underperformed, deals have evaporated into polite corporate statements, and maintaining that Montecito lifestyle, it's not cheap. We all know that all of Meghan's latest projects have been failing, and if it continues like this, she will go broke. She has employees to pay and an expensive lifestyle to keep up with. So she sees that writing this memoir would be a big financial security and long-term stability. When publishers saw that she was serious about this project, they didn't waste time. They started offering her massive advances and even millions for the book to be published. Massive advances. Millions on the table. Publishers circling like sharks, sensing blood in the water. They know controversy sells. They know royal secrets are liquid gold. And they know that if Meghan truly opens the vault, the headlines alone could fund entire marketing campaigns without spending a dime.
There's a quote in this book where you refer to your brother as your beloved brother and arch nemesis. Strong words. What did you mean by that?
There has always been this competition between us, weirdly. I think it really plays into, or is played by, the heir spare.
And she believes the timing is perfect because it would make sense to publish it before her popularity collapses completely, and writing a book now would have a massive financial impact. The proceeds from the book could help maintain the lifestyle she has always preached and tried to maintain. Publishers are curious about what she is going to write, and that is one of the reasons they are supporting her. At least that's what the sources are saying. But inside that California mansion, the atmosphere reportedly isn't celebratory. It's tense. Harry isn't cheering. He's resisting, pushing back, and not gently. But despite the good opportunities involved in writing this book, Harry is pushing back and resisting the publication with everything he has.
He genuinely fears that another deeply personal, headline-dominating book would undo what little progress has been made behind the scenes.
His concerns about the book are both emotional and long-term. After his book Spare, his relationship with the royal family became worse. They were not happy with the things he wrote in his book. He knows what Spare did. He knows the private details he revealed. He knows the rift widened after those pages hit shelves. He lived through the backlash, the silence, the cold shoulders. And now he's staring at a potential sequel, not written by him, but by someone who may not feel the same emotional hesitation. He even went as far as sharing extremely personal details, which many people felt were unnecessary. After the publication, he realized the book created a huge rift in the royal family. He tried his best to amend the already broken bridge he had created. He recently contacted his father, King Charles, for reconciliation talks, but everything ended quickly and no concrete resolution was reached. Imagine that. After publicly airing grievances, he attempts to patch things up with his father, King Charles. Conversations that reportedly went nowhere. Doors that didn't fully open. And now, just as time might slowly soften hardened positions, Meghan's manuscript looms like a match hovering over dry timber.
I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
Harry is afraid that if Meghan writes her own tell-all book, the remaining bridge would be destroyed and there would be no going back to the royal family. Her book could reopen old family wounds that Harry believes could slowly heal with time. Well, he is right to think that because it could permanently damage ties with the British royal family and Harry would be considered the royal outcast for life. This isn't just about headlines. It's about exile, permanent exile. Because once the final bridge burns, there's no rebuilding Buckingham Palace with apology letters and Christmas cards. There's only distance. And yet, Harry's record isn't exactly spotless when it comes to reconciliation. The children haven't reportedly formed close bonds with their grandfather. The transatlantic gap remains wide. Public interviews have kept wounds fresh. In one emotional moment, he even expressed a longing for peace, for reconciliation, for his children to know their extended family. He said, "Life is precious." He spoke about time being limited. He spoke about wanting to stop fighting. Those weren't the words of a man eager for another royal detonation. But here's the collision course. Meghan sees opportunity. Harry sees catastrophe. Friends reportedly whisper in her ear, "Act now, strike while interest is hot, secure the deal before publishers move on." Meanwhile, Harry stands firm. Sources claim he's blocking it with all his might. Blocking, not negotiating. Not delaying, blocking. And that word alone says everything. Because when a marriage becomes a battleground over legacy, money, reputation, and family, it's not just about a book anymore. It's about power. Who controls the narrative? Who decides what gets told? Who chooses between financial security and blood ties? This memoir isn't ink on paper. It's leverage. It's reportedly on hold right now. Suspended in that dangerous space between a multi-million-dollar payday and a potentially irreversible family fracture. No contract signed. No manuscript confirmed publicly. Just tension, strategy, and two very different visions for the future. One wants the spotlight reignited, the other wants the spotlight dimmed long enough for reconciliation to breathe. And if neither backs down, this won't just be a publishing dispute. It may be the final crack in a marriage already tested by exile, ambition, and global scrutiny. Now, here's where the pressure cooker really starts to hiss, because this isn't just a quiet disagreement behind closed doors, it's reportedly becoming a full-scale standoff. On one side, Meghan sees a window that may never open again. On the other, Harry sees a door that once slammed shut will never reopen. And insiders are saying this is the closest they've come to a real fracture over priorities. Let's not forget what's at stake for Harry personally. After Spare detonated across headlines worldwide, he didn't just expose family arguments, he exposed wounds, private conversations, humiliations, and deeply intimate details that many felt should have stayed behind palace walls. The backlash wasn't just media noise, it was emotional fallout. Silence from family members, distance that felt colder than ever. And now he allegedly fears that Meghan's version could go even further. Because while Spare focused on his childhood, his resentment, his trauma, Meghan's memoir would zero in on her royal years. The inner circle, the hierarchy, the tensions, the exit, and perhaps the conversations that were never meant to leave drawing rooms. Harry reportedly understands something crucial. He can survive being the rebellious prince, but he may not survive being the man whose wife permanently scorched the monarchy. There's also the issue of public fatigue. The nuclear tell-all strategy doesn't hit the same way twice. The first explosion shocks the world. The second, it risks looking calculated. And that's the gamble Meghan is allegedly weighing. Does she strike now while there's still curiosity, or wait and risk becoming irrelevant? Sources claim publishers are eager, but not infinitely patient. Interest fades, scandals rotate, attention spans shrink, the commercial window for maximum impact doesn't stay open forever. And Meghan reportedly knows that. There's talk that this is being framed internally as empowerment, reclaiming her narrative, speaking without filters, telling her truth in full. But critics argue that every major media appearance since stepping down has already been framed as exactly that. So, what new revelation could justify the risk? That's the question Harry is reportedly asking. Because for him, this isn't just business strategy, it's family calculus. He's publicly admitted he wants reconciliation, he's spoken about wanting his children to know they're British relatives, he's expressed hope that the fighting could end, but reconciliation requires silence at some point. It requires the willingness to stop reopening old wounds for public consumption. And a tell-all memoir does the exact opposite. Then there's the friction over the children. Reports suggest tension over whether they should spend more time in Britain, whether bridges can be rebuilt if physical presence returns, whether a softer public image could shift private conversations. Meghan, however, is reportedly not convinced that symbolic visits will magically erase years of bitterness. So we're watching two strategies clash. Harry's strategy, patience, gradual thaw, protect what's left. Meghan's strategy, control the narrative, secure financial stability, seize relevance before it slips away. And when those strategies collide, marriage becomes negotiation. Insiders describe it as a strategic threat phase, where the mere possibility of a memoir becomes leverage, even if it's not signed, even if it's not written. The idea alone generates headlines. The speculation alone keeps her name circulating. But here's the catch. If you threaten the explosion too many times and never detonate, people stop believing the fuse is real. Some commentators are already saying exactly that. They argue the world has seen the docuseries, seen the interviews, read Spare, heard the grievances. They question whether another book would truly shift public opinion or simply harden it. And Harry reportedly knows that too. Because while Meghan may gain short-term financial windfall, Harry risks permanent identity exile. He doesn't just lose access, he loses possibility. The possibility of ever being welcomed back, even partially. The possibility of his children forming organic bonds. The possibility of aging parents softening toward him. Once Meghan's memoir hits shelves, critics say the monarchy may draw a final line. And let's be honest, Harry's relationship with the royal family is already fragile. Security disputes, media clashes, public criticism, attempts at private talks that reportedly fizzled. He's walking a tightrope stretched across continents. Now, imagine adding another bombshell publication into that equation. Friends close to Meghan reportedly urge decisiveness. They see hesitation as weakness. They see the publishing offer as a lifeline, not just financially, but symbolically. A declaration that she is not fading quietly into background Hollywood noise. But Harry's stance is described as immovable. He's allegedly blocking it with all his might. And that phrase alone tells you how serious this is. Because if he's resisting that strongly, it means he believes the consequences aren't just dramatic, they're irreversible. And here's the deeper layer: power. Who ultimately decides? If Meghan signs a contract independently, does Harry have legal leverage, moral leverage, or only emotional persuasion? If she believes this memoir defines her legacy, does she yield for the sake of his reconciliation dream? Or does she conclude that reconciliation was never realistically possible anyway? Because that's the unspoken tension. What if Harry's hope is illusion? What if the palace doors were never truly going to open? Then blocking the memoir becomes self-sacrifice for a reunion that may never happen. But if reconciliation was even slightly possible, then the memoir could permanently close it. That's the gamble. Right now, no confirmed contract, no confirmed manuscript, no confirmed publication date, just heat, just whispers, just publishers watching, just a marriage navigating its most delicate strategic divide yet. And here's the irony that makes this story almost Shakespearean. The prince who once defied the palace for love is now allegedly defying his wife for the palace. Not to return to duty, not to reclaim titles, but simply to preserve the faintest thread of connection. Meanwhile, Meghan stands at a crossroads: speak fully and secure financial dominance, or stay silent and protect a reconciliation that isn't guaranteed. The memoir remains suspended in that charged silence. But silence never lasts forever in royal drama. So the real question is this: if you were in Harry's position, would you risk permanent exile to let your partner speak freely? Or if you were in Meghan's position, would you sacrifice millions and your version of history for a family that never fully embraced you? Because one thing is certain, if that book is ever officially announced, it won't just be another celebrity memoir. It will be the moment the last bridge either burns or proves it was already ashes. And when that that announcement finally comes, whichever direction it goes, it may define not just their public image, but the future of their marriage itself.